Hello everybody, welcome back. Today we're back on the F350. Today what we're going to be working on is we got one seized rear brake caliper on the back, on the passenger side. So I got some new ones that came in today. So today we're going to try to get them on. So we've already got the tires off. So all we're going to do then is just pull the calipers off. So get those off. And then we'll switch the brakes and stuff over. The brake pads are still good. Now that we got the tire off of the F350 here, we're going to do the brakes on here. So I don't know if it's been mentioned in a previous video or not. When we got this truck, well actually when my cousin's daughter got this truck, it came with one brake rotor and one pair of brake pads, and we were kind of baffled as to why. So we got that tire off on the other side, and you can see the brand new rotor and the brand new pads. When we tried to get the tire off this side, it would not come off. It was stuck on there so bad we actually had to use that sledgehammer and hammer the tire off. It got to the point where we'd hammered on that thing with a 2x4 on the back and everything, like as hard as we could. It wasn't coming off. We finally had to cave and just actually hit the rim directly with the hammer, and that finally gave it enough impact to break it off. Not ideal. You don't want to hit the rim if you can help it, but at this point, or at that point, it was either hit the rim and get it off and damage the rim, or it never comes off, and either way I was kind of pooched anyway, so had nothing to lose by that point. So we did that, we got it off. And we found out why, like I say, they only did one side of the brakes. So, now that we've got that off, we're going to do these brakes. So we're going to pull the calipers off. There's two bolts at the back. You can see my socket in there. There's a bolt there and a bolt down at the bottom. That'll take the caliper off. And then there's a bolt right here. And a bolt on the bottom as well. And that'll take off this bracket that holds the caliper. These are 14 millimeter, the socket, and I believe that's going to be a 17, possibly an 18. I will confirm that when we get the caliper off. So let's set you up so you can see that, and we'll get that off. Okay, so these screws are loose now. They should just come out by hand. There's one. And there's two. Okay, so now I'm going to get a screwdriver. And I'm going to pry back the piston a little bit here so that it's not tight to the caliper, and so that it comes off the brakes, because some of these brake pads have a little nub on the back that sit inside the piston, and if you don't push that piston back and just pry that off, you might break the piston. So make sure you pry that back, and then hopefully that caliper should slide right off. Okay, as you can see, we have the brake caliper off. We got it hung up on a wire here so that it's not hanging on the brake line. So now what we have to do is get this bolt right here off, and then the same on the bottom half, and that'll take this bracket off, and then we can hopefully get the rotor off. Okay, so we got these bolts loose. They're just finger loose now, so I can pull those off. I want to thank my cousin, by the way. My cousin Mooch is here to help us today. So he's got those broken free. It's still a little bit tight. We'll have to get him to loosen that one some more. And just so you know, we're only using hand tools here today. We're not using any power tools. We do have power tools. but we're just using these so that we can show that even if you don't have power tools, you can still do these jobs. Okay, so we got that bracket off. So as you can see, the pads just sit in the bracket there inside these little spring clips. So to get those out, in most cases they should just fall out, but in this case they're stuck in there because they've been neglected over the years. So it looks like these pads aren't even that bad, but we got the new ones, so we're going to put them in. But anyway, so we have that off. We'll work on getting the pads out later. Right now we want to work on getting this rotor off. And I think it's going to need a lot of hammering and a lot of persuasion. So not going to videotape that. That's just a lot of boringness. So basically we're just going to be swinging hammers for the next God knows how long. So once we get it off though, we'll show you what we have inside. But there's the rotor. As you can see, it's been neglected. They probably haven't worked for a while, so I'm betting the caliper is seized. But it actually came off a lot easier than we thought it was gonna. Just some light hammering and it actually popped off. So meantime, I'm gonna clean up all around here where the rotor sits and stuff like that. Clean it up, get some anti-seize on there and on the studs. So when we put it all back together, and like I said, clean that up and we'll go from there. And we have the rotor on now, so what I did was got the copper anti-seize on the faceplate, and I put the rotor on, and I got one lug nut on down here just to hold the rotor in place so that we can put the caliper plate back on, and then we're going to torque that down to spec. And put the pads in, put the caliper back on, torque it down to spec. Okay, so I got the new spring clips on there. Put grease inside the clips, got the pads in there. I cleaned up the grooves where the spring clips go. Now I'm just going to clean out these holes where the slide pins go. I'm going to bore them out with a little wire brush here. Just put the wire brush in. Bore that out a little bit. Get all any of the rust in there that might be in there. I got some grease on the slider pins. I'll put the slider pins back in like so. And get these little boots back up around the pins. There we go. Push them back in and out a bit, make sure they move freely. They do. Same thing with the other pin. Quite a bit of grease in that one, but oh well. Get the boot back on there, make sure it's on all the way around. Whoop, there we go. Work that in and out, get the grease all in there. Alright, now we're going to go put these back on the truck. Alright, we're ready to put the caliper back on. I got the bolts all cleaned up and some Loctite put on them. Sorry about the bad lighting. I've got the top one in already. I'm just going to put the bottom one back in. I'm going to torque that down to 166 foot-pounds. And then we're going to put the caliper brackets, or the calipers back on, and torque those down to 27 foot-pounds. Okay, we got the brake caliper off the truck. Had my buddy give me a hand with that. So now we're going to just switch the brake pads over from this one to this one, and put in the new springs and stuff like that, and get it ready to go back on the truck. we have the bracket back on, torqued down to spec. We got the caliper back on, torqued down to spec. All we have to do now is I'm going to put a little bit of anti-seize on the lug nuts, or on the studs, and then put tire back on, and then make sure you pump the pedal a couple of times to make sure the brakes actually make contact with the rotor, and then take it out for a test ride.